Under the same moon, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have quite the show tonight. We're going to have an open discussion. I've dropped the link for anyone that would like to come up and have a discussion about the matters at hand. We're going to talk about the President of the United States, Donald Trump. We're going to talk about Karmelo Anthony. We're going to talk about Nolan Wells and so much more. As we prepare to bring people on the show, I want to start off by asking you guys a question. Do you think justice is equal in America? How would you answer that question? Do you feel like it's equal? Well, I'm going to debate this from a different angle tonight. I attended the court case for the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, okay? I don't know how many of you remember that case, but he ended up receiving 34 felonies. A former president of the United States of America. When I attended his trial, one of the things that I noticed, I said, man, the jury looked very democratic. And I said that to you guys right from the beginning as I was attending his trial, right? It looked like there was no way to really win the case. Okay, a lot of people don't want to hear that, but that was just my opinion as I attended the trial. Okay, so if you get a president of the United States that goes through the entire system, a long trial I attended, and he still gets 34 felonies, what does that say for the average Joe? How would you answer that? Shout out to Purple Flower. Nice to see you. Okay. What about the Alexander brothers? I saw another extreme. The Alexander brothers, they came through and they thought they were going to beat the case. They had those charges standing in the room just like an elephant. And I could tell by looking at the family members and also the Alexander brothers, they thought they had the best attorneys money could buy. And it was just a matter of time before they would walk out of that courtroom. And so when they hit them with those guilty pleas and the verdicts, oh, they fell apart, devastated because they thought that they could somehow have a different outcome. So maybe they felt like it was a injustice for them. Okay. What about Luigi Mangione? I've been attending his trial, his hearings. He has two separate trials, right? So how could he commit one murder, but yet he has two? He has a state trial for murder, and he also has a federal trial for murder. Okay, right? He's not a black guy; he's a white guy, and so he was so upset about having to sit for two trials. Now, just like most of the people that we see raising money nowadays, he was able to raise 1.5 million online from people that felt like he did a noble deed. Okay. The same people that felt that he did a noble deed, right? They reached into their pocket and sent a lot of money, 1.5 million, probably more than that now. Okay. But he still has to sit for two trials. Why is that the case? He probably felt like it's an injustice. In fact, when I attended one of his, maybe the two hearings ago, he had a big outburst in court saying, how can you charge me double? He was hoping to only have one case, maybe facing life. Remember, For Luigi Mangione in New York, because of the federal case, he was facing the death penalty. Okay. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But I wanted to set the stage just to show you that there's a lot of people that claim injustice. Most people think you only hear about black people, but a lot of people are saying they get injustice. Even you heard the president of the United States say that his 34 felonies were an injustice, right? Would he hear the cries of a lot of people who have gone through the system? Okay. Now, there's a lot of people that deserve what they receive. We're not talking about that. But there's a lot of people that feel like they received an injustice. I set the stage for our discussion tonight, and I do have guests coming on. We're going to talk about Carmelo Anthony's case. I attended his trial. Many are saying that it was an injustice. Okay. What about in the case of Nolan Wells? It's not that he had a trial, but many people are saying, listen, the response that we're getting from him is not what we normally see when it's people of a different color, right? Isn't that what you're hearing? If the tables were turned, these boys would have had to come in and answer some hard questions and maybe get thrown up against the wall, you know? You ever watch the first 48? You see those guys coming in? They don't get a lot of coaching, right? Well, in this particular case, though, I think one of the mothers is a judge, so you would expect the child to get guidance. But what I'm saying is people are starting to now wake up and say, listen, how come the system seems skewed? What's going on in the country? See, the last couple of years or so, everybody was on TikTok and ticking away. But now those terms have changed, and now people are coming back to earth and they're starting to take a look at things. Perhaps they could not discern while they were just online scrolling away, scrolling. Now people are scrolling less because the money, a lot of the shekels have dried up. So now people are forced to look at reality. So I set the stage for this as I wait for my guests. Okay. Um, let's talk about Carmelo Anthony's case. I started with it earlier, but I want to look at this a little bit more. And I want to tell you a few things about the case that I discern. Now, if you notice, they came out with the appeal. Oh, by the way, there's a new judge appointed. That's breaking news. I'm going to go through that tonight. There's a new judge appointed in the Carmelo Anthony case. In case you guys have not heard about that, okay? So this judge will make a determination overall whether the previous judge or the current judge Roach, if he will have to recuse himself. So that's a glimmer of hope for anybody that's involved in this case and feeling like maybe this was just a good old boy club. You know what I mean? This is real talk over here at Watching the World Tonight, okay? So I'm just laying it out as it is. A lot of people are concerned about the good old boy club. Remember that song, the song from Dukes of Hazzard? Just a good old boy, never mean any harm. You guys know what I mean, right? Everybody knows what I mean. A lot of people don't like to touch on these type of subject matters, but it's great that we can, right? I just came from Egypt, and the freeness of speech is not as prevalent as it is in the United States of America. So that's just how it goes, right? So hopefully, in regards to the case, at least for the issues that we have discussed, hopefully this means that when it comes to Carmelo Anthony's case and other cases too, there are a lot of other cases out there that people have been battling, trying to get some justice, right? Now, do not get me wrong when it comes to Carmelo Anthony. I understand the frustration of both sides, all sides. There's a lot of concerns when it comes to the case. But what we're focusing on in this particular trial was some of the things that happen that typically don't happen in the name of justice. For instance, I'm not the only person sounding the horn saying, hey, there's some witness tampering happening during the trial, right? Some have voiced their concern about a witness being on the stand, and there's someone in the audience communicating with that witness. Okay. All right. And I'm also adding to the pot that when I sat on the back row, I saw someone coughing. You know what I mean? Coughing, getting the attention of a witness. You can't do that in court. Okay. All right. And believe you me, I understand how any mother would be in such pain to have to sit through a court case and hear all the things that happen, or even just, you have your feelings, especially when it comes to a child. I get that. But for the crying that happened in the courtroom, all of that, typically in New York, it doesn't happen. So to see it happen in Texas is just something that I noted. I typically hear, see, in New York, when you sit in the courtroom, they say, hey, you cannot talk. Sometimes I see those guys yelling at people, hey, no talking, or you can't chew gum, you can't sleep. You definitely can't cry all day long because the wisdom tells everyone involved that that's going to sway the jury. Is that reasonable? Put a one in the chat if you think that's reasonable, right? Wouldn't that be reasonable, right? If you're on a jury, I'm pretty sure many of you have been on a jury. Wouldn't crying throughout the day, which is very understandable, don't get me wrong, but wouldn't that have an effect on the proceeding? Isn't that a reasonable thought? Tell me what you think about that. If you think otherwise, then go ahead and express yourself, all right? Now, let's talk about one of the main issues that's mentioned, that the motion from the attorneys, they're talking about the access to the courtroom. And I don't know where the guests are, but anyway, we're going to see what happens here. If not, we're going to keep rolling on, all right? But anyway, one of the things they talk about is getting into the courtroom, all right? Let me tell you, in New York, I often pay. And, I've lost a lot of, I wouldn't call them friends, right? I would say I lost a lot of associates during the Diddy trial, Trump trial, because everything is okay as long as you're paying, you can get into court, you can access court. Typically in New York, even, you only get, I think we had only 12 people that could get into the main courtroom. So everybody loves one another and it's a righteous cause. But when it gets down to that 12th seat, it turns into a fight, and sometimes you lose a person forever. And that's what happened with Sean Diddy Combs' case, right? When it came down to some of those days when people were trying to get in, it doesn't matter who it is that you line up against for that last seat. Sometimes it turns into a fiasco and people want to battle it out. And I'm not talking to you anymore. And it gets real petty. So, in regards to Carmelo Anthony's case, we saw something quite similar. The judge only gave, I believe it was 27 seats. Okay, 27. Now, in order to get in, they only allowed 9 from the public. Typically in New York, they will allow, let's say, from the media. I meant to say media. From the media, they'll allow maybe 24, and then from the public 12. Okay, so but in this case, Judge Roach had set it up right from the beginning how many people could access Carmelo Anthony's trial. So he only allowed 9 from the media to be able to attend. And then they allowed, I believe it was 27 to go in from the public. But listen, now because there's only 9 people going in from the media, now you have the other guys from the media, you have the public, all trying to get into those 27 seats. Then you also have people associated with the family, because this is the weird thing that's on record, is that when it came to Austin Metcalf's family, they had a certain amount of seats, and they were not inhibited from getting into the courtroom to enjoy those seats, right? But As the documents show, when it came to Carmelo's family, they had a allotted amount of seats, but then they had experienced some restrictions so that they couldn't even utilize the seats that were already laid out for them. So now what happens? Now you have those individuals trying to get in the 27, okay? And it was quite the task. Now, keep in mind, I came all the way from New York. I flew in. So it's a long day to travel all the way down to Dallas, right? So I know how this goes. So I get up early in the morning, 3 o'clock, and I'm out there. Probably the first day, maybe one other person may have been there when I arrived. And I just waited out. Okay. So I was able to get in. So the second day, it was tough because people then come in on the second day and say, "Oh, what time did you arrive?" "Oh, 3 o'clock." "Okay, I'm coming at 2:30." So now I have to come in earlier, 2:30, 2 o'clock. You see how that works? Then the next day, everybody knows. And then we have a car accident out there. People trying to get access to this court case because most people realize that this is probably one of the most momentous cases that we're going to see. And you know why? Because it involves race. And that's always a challenge. It always makes it interesting, just to say the least. So we also had people almost going to blows. Now, this is the story I want to tell you guys to show you. And I don't believe it's mentioned in the appeal documents. Um, but I was there each day for the prosecution's witnesses, okay? The first day I went in, now I also had my press pass, right? So I was able to use it to get access earlier, okay? Because the rules were you have to have a press pass. So I had my press pass. At any rate, the second day when I arrived, because the first day we tried to have some organization, we were taking names and putting it on a list like we do in New York, right? So, your name would be on the list because think about it. You First of all, the court is over at 6 o'clock. Usually in New York, it might be over at 4, 5. You get a good judge, you might be out of there at 3:30. This judge had us there to 6 o'clock. So that means if I got to get up the next morning at 3, or at least be there by 3, I have to get up at 2. So that's very limited sleep, and you're sitting all day taking notes. So you see how this whole thing is shaping up, right? So the first day, I'm like, hey, listen, let's get some notes here. Let's get a list. And as people come in, we're going to try to honor this list. It was a good idea, but then that kind of went left. Okay. So the second day, when I arrived, myself and a couple of other individuals, the police officer told us, the one that was actually managing the parking lot, because they had pretty much blocked off the entire parking lot for the courthouse. Okay. So they told us, because the day prior, we all lined up down by the courthouse at a stop sign. Okay. So that worked out. And we had our lists. At some point, they allow you to go up on the platform and line up by the door by the courthouse, right? So we get there in the morning the next day. This is the second day of court for me. I was able to attend those days that I was there. So they say, listen, the parking lot opens up at 6. The media with a media pass. I wish I'd have had my media pass to show you. I like my media pass. But anyway, a press pass. So some were allowed to get into the parking lot at 4:30. That was the rules. Okay. Somebody complained about that and that was shut down too. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. So now check this out. I want you guys to envision. They have this beautiful big parking lot, right? New York, we don't even have a parking lot associated with the courthouse that's so busy all day long, right? So, because they have a rule that you can't even enter the parking lot as a public citizen, right? So now people get the bright idea, well, I'm going to park down the street at the church and at this other place, and we're just going to line up on side the road. Because the second day, people were lining up in the middle of the road with the medium and that's when the accident happened. So now the police are like, oh, we got to pay more attention. But anyway, here's the bottom line. That day, I had got in with the media. We were lined up, and at 6 o'clock, they say, listen, you can go to this stop sign, which is probably, I'd say, a good, let's see, 300 feet or so, right? Okay. So it's quite the walk, it's quite the journey. And then there's the people that started to line up by the road. So at 6 o'clock, you have people that parked way down the street. They walked to the courthouse and they're lined up by the road. I'm in the media line and we're in a single file line and we start walking, right? Check this out. This is the weirdest thing ever. The people at 6 o'clock, it's like, now, let me tell you this. When we first arrived, the police officer says, you're going to have to make a run for it to the stop sign. I'm like, what? We got to run? Where are we at right now? We have to run to be able to attend a court case? Yeah, real talk. So anyway, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. Hope my James Brown shoes don't fail me now. Anyway, whatever. So we're in a single file line, maybe there's 12 or 13 people walking. All of a sudden at 6 o'clock, you heard all the people come running like a herd of horses, just running, running, running. So now these people are starting to pass us who were actually there earlier. Can you imagine that? Right? And the police officers, some of them were actually videotaping or whatever. That's what everybody was saying. But they were laughing. I saw, so they were laughing at us. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, I'm like, listen, I'm here. I flew from New York. I'm gonna maintain my first place in line. So I was able to do that. But some individuals had to take off their high heels and run, right? So what kind of a court case is this about? I couldn't quite grasp. I'm like, we really out here running. I mean, the liability if somebody had a fell and broke a leg or something. I mean, anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But so that right there, I don't think it's in the documentation. I didn't really get a chance. I was in Egypt. I didn't read it line by line. I don't think that part's in there. It might be. If it is, then great. But the bottom line is they're talking about the accessibility, and that's one of the key features as to try to obtain an appeal for Karmelo. I'm just coloring in some of these experiences so you guys can understand what was happening. There was another incident. There was a good brother. I think he's out of North Carolina. He has a big following. So I know I'm going to offend a few people. My grandfather was like that too. I guess it just runs in the family. We're going to keep moving though, right? So check this out. And I have to be careful what I say. All right. Okay, here we go. But I have to be real. So down in Texas, oh my God, I have to go back down there. Okay, so check this out. It's more like the officers, a lot of them are amazing and great, but you have some that I try to illustrate it. It's almost like herding cattle. And you ever watch the John Wayne movies where you have the guys with the cowboy hats on top of the horse and they're trying to herd cattle and they be like, how, get out of the way. How? That's how they were operating. So I'm not used to that because in New York, right, I see people, you can go back to some of my videos, they be in the officer's face yelling, mother, you, da da da. Police officers stand there just like military. They don't say much, right? You couldn't do that in Texas. It's not going to go well for you. So I say all of that to give you an idea. There's one black guy, okay? One black guy, I believe, that was a part of the entire police force, maybe two, but one, right? So I'm telling you this story. It's real talk. So he's like, and I have to be careful here. He's a police officer, one black guy. You got maybe 30 guys. I don't know. It's just weird. Okay. It's kind of like when you go to the bank. You know what I mean? Anyway, it is what it is. Okay. So check this out. So he was very, I mean, the officers were one way, but this guy, he was really controlling the crowd, especially there's a lot of blacks, so he was really. So one of the guys said to him, I think it's almost like, I don't think he called him like maybe he called him like a house Negro. He called him something like that, and they kicked him off the property. So I'm just helping you guys understand, and I'm probably not accurate with this story because I'm just listening. I'm trying to get into the courtroom, but I know that these things are happening. And then I saw the commotion. I didn't hear the exact words, but it's something like that was conveyed. So now they say, "Oh, you're out of here." You know what I mean? Because one black guy pointed out that the other black guy was being a little too black or something for the crowd over there, for the police officers. So anyway, that's happening. So then you have another element of, you have some people who, this is what I heard, they have platforms online that are pretty racist. Okay, so they're there. There's a lot of drama because people are going at each other online, and the blacks versus the whites, and just, you had all of that happening, and I didn't even know, couldn't recognize who was the individuals, but I learned as I stayed around. Then on top of that, you had the guy, what's the guy, Jake or something? He was there. You had all sorts of characters that had their own role going. And so I was getting calls and saying, "Hey, did you see what this guy did? And he's going to do this. He's going to shoot Carmelo if he comes out." I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't run into any of that. I didn't have any tough guys approaching or anything like that. So I'm not totally sure." But then I learned about it, and I realized that the individual even was locked up. Okay, so just so many different moving parts. But here's the thing, check this out. So apparently, for jury selection, they allowed for an overflow room. So now, on the first day of the trial, when I'm there trying to get in, you have 27 hopefuls. You don't really know how many are going to be in the courtroom, but you had a whole host of people that were just lined up wanting to get into the overflow room. Okay, because the way that works is, typically, like for Sean Diddy Combs' trial, I paid someone every day to hold a place for me in line. So that could be $200 to $300 a day. Okay, it's a lot of money. Okay, for 9 weeks. Okay, but that's how much I wanted to attend this trial, and I'm glad I did for Diddy. Okay, um, but the overflow room, you get to see on the monitor sometimes, because it's situated. You get to see Diddy or whoever the defendant is. You get to hear better than the main courtroom. Okay, so a lot of people were excited about at least just going to. They knew, hey, listen, I know I won't get into the main courtroom, but if I could just get into the overflow, then I can at least hear and articulate, because there's so many people that are there just to go back and do pretty much what I do, and others just trying to convey the things seen and heard. So check this out. The first day of the trial, I was able to make the cut. I think I was like maybe number 6 in line. I don't know, 6 in line, something like that. My first day through, a whole host of people tried to get in. They brought them in because, see, they had stages. They would bring us into the courtroom. Then you go, you pass, you get into the courtroom. Now you go up the escalators and they put you up against the wall, and there's your 27. So once we're situated, they tell us, listen, we're going to give you a color for the day. Maybe I think it was yellow the first day. And they told you the rules associated. You can't do this, you can't do that. So then they start bringing in all these people, and they put them across the gallery, and they were lined up. I would say an easy 100 people, right? So when I was able to go into the courtroom, I'd never really learned what happened with those individuals. Well, guess what? Those individuals did not make the cut. So for those of them that remained, they were allowed to go into the courtroom if one of the main 27 were turning their badge for the day. So some people were able to get in that way. All right. So you see how complicated it was? Okay. Now that's all going to play a very important role when I start to tell you how this whole case turned out. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do, I don't know how many of you guys ever worked at a place that had like a express line, maybe in a factory, and they had a conveyor belt. At the end of the day, at the end of the row, you would get a box of chocolates wrapped in a bow, right? That's the finished product. When you listen to the judge in this case, he kind of tells you, listen, this was a great case. We worked this case. He goes back in time, but you listen to the way he lays it out. I mean, it helps you to understand that even earlier on, it's almost like he was expecting that Carmelo Anthony would come out all wrapped up. And then the next day, within 24 hours, typically, right, all the cases that I have attended in New York and other places, Jersey, once they give you your verdict, it takes a while for you to actually get sentenced, right? I do know in this particular case that Mike Howard asked for that to be done quickly. Okay, so I understand that. But then the optics of Carmelo being with his hair cut the next day, a lot of people felt like that was by design. You follow what I'm saying, right? I'm just conveying some of the observations, right? So, with that being said, let's talk about the trial. I'm still going to wait. Hopefully, if there's anyone in the audience that wants to come up, feel free to hit the link. It looks like we may have some sort of error because I'm not seeing all of the comments. I'm not sure why. I'm not seeing all of the comments. So it might be a YouTube type of deal. All right. So let's can you guys hear me okay? Put a one in the chat. Let me see if I can see any comments. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me just fine. Let's see what's happening here. And then we're going to get into some of the dynamics of the trial, and then we're going to get into Nolan. Okay, so all right, we have comments. Okay, so you guys can hear me okay. Thank you very much. All right, so that's one of the main issues that happened with this trial that the appeal is hinged on. Okay, that of the accessibility, we could get into all of that. One of the guests that's coming on is very versed in the affidavits and also the motion, so hopefully she'll come on and really break that down so we can understand it at a higher level, the details of those features. Now, here's a thing that I want you to understand. Um, a lot of people, we have an issue in this country and around the world, and I'm not afraid to talk about it, right? As you can see, I'm probably not afraid to talk about anything, really. We have a problem with people making things up. What's the problem? Like, why do you have to just make things up? And people do it deliberately, and social media runs with it. It's happening, and now it's starting to happen so early in the case. Sometimes it's not even a case at all, but people make these things a case. Like, what's really happening? Do they get a thrill out of deceiving people? Do they get a thrill out of misinformation or disinformation? This is something that we really need to take a look at. In the case of Carmelo Anthony, this is the first case that I had to face the win head on with misinformation. So now, when I covered Diddy's case, I sat in court with people, and some of them would walk out and make up a story. Someone used one of my videos, and because I have an amazing video of Diddy's daughters walking out of the courtroom, the twins who I had a chance to meet. And somebody took the video and they said, "Oh my God, Diddy's daughters escaped the courthouse." I'm like, "Oh, escaped the courthouse? I just filmed them walking out of the courthouse, minding their own business. You took my video, and now you're just lying to the people, right? What is going on?" So I can't say it's the first time I've seen it, but in the case of Carmelo Anthony, we had so much mis and disinformation, it was almost impossible to handle, right? And I've broken it. I've gone into that extensively, but I'm going to show you tonight how that can be very dangerous, especially when it comes to Nolan, because we want to know what really happened to the guy. But again, we don't want to push false narratives because sometimes it just gets people all bent out of shape before we really know what happened. So what tends to happen is this, right? Let me give you a couple of examples with Carmelo Anthony's case to help you understand. Nancy Grace, she came out and she said that there were 3 Hispanics on the jury. Now, I sat there in court. There was not 3 Hispanics on the jury, right? Fox News came out. They said the knife blade was 5 inches, right? It was 3.5. Okay. Now, somebody say, well, that's not a big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal because I'm in court taking notes. So what happens is when Fox News say 5 inches, and then I come through and I say 3.5, but the defense said that 5.5 or below is not illegal. People say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Fox News said it's 5 inches, and you don't. I deal with that all day long, right? And then there's a segment, I call it of the loonies, and they say, oh, Carmelo's in the tent before the twins. And I'm like, man, we just sat in court. No, he wasn't. And so I had to fight that for about 3 weeks. I'm like, man, I never really dealt with this before. What's happening? Why is it how is this a thing? What's pushing it? Is it the internet? Well, we've always had the internet. Maybe it's just my perspective. I'm not sure. But why do we have so much misinformation? We just had with Nolan in regards to this photo at the pool, right? And so everybody take a position on it. Um, okay. We still probably don't know 100%. Maybe it could go either way. But then we have the Rolling Stone come out and say, listen, no, that photo is not from the night. That happened on June 27th. That's when the party was. Here's our witness. Now, maybe that needs to be substantiated more. But again, imagine if I came on the channel, for those that really follow the channel, right? And I say to you, oh, this pool party, this happened at night. The guy, he was on the island. He came back to a pool party. He was beat to death and they took him back to the island. What if that was the way we do business, right? Or we do things. And let's say, for argument's sake, that they're right, that, that photo wasn't even from that night. How much would you want to follow anybody if this is how they put out information, right? So that's why I say, listen, I respect the photo. I saw it. People sent it to me or whatever, but I don't want to get behind it until we get the metadata. Is that respectable? Right? This is not the Inquirer. I want to know. Okay. That's not what's happening here, right? Remember, you'd be in line at the grocery store back in the day before the internet, and they'd have the Inquirer, and then they'd have a person with 3 heads in New York City walking on top of a building. And, down south, you probably wouldn't even know any better. You say, oh, mommy, there's people with 3 heads in the world, right? But is this how you really want to approach information in court cases, especially cases that you don't have the time to attend? Maybe you can't even travel, right? When I was in Egypt last week, some nice, kind watcher told me she was in hospice, and this was her only way to see Egypt was through my camera, right? So I said to myself, there are people that really count on me and others to really, whatever we're doing, to do it with integrity and not just to do it for clicks, right? So that's what I'm saying. So anyway, let's get to the trial. First of all, the judge in this particular case was yelling at folks, okay? Now, I know I may have to attend the trial again in Dallas. It is what it is. I'll stand on it. But here's the thing, I've never in Luigi Mangione's case, there is a judge. I forget if it's for the federal or the state, but he's pretty testy too. Okay, so I get that. But in this particular case, it seemed that the judge was so stern, almost that the defense and the prosecution were afraid to express themselves the way they should have. Okay, let me give you an example. One time he told the jury, sit down. I was like, oh God, he told the jury to sit down. That's different for me. For the jury, you know what I mean? So anyway, whatever. All right, so there's another time where Worski and his team came in late and he reprimanded them in front of the courtroom. And he was like, don't ever come into this courtroom again late. And then as they were walking in, it was like a team, I'd say at least 13 people. They're walking in, we're all waiting on them. But he kind of was counseling them. It was, just you could just tell. And I mean, as a judge, I would imagine hey, listen, you are the judge, right? And I'm not knocking it in any way. I'm just helping you to understand that sometimes, see, later I learned about the gentleman's deal. So the gentleman's deal is what led the public to believe that his defense team were just lost in the sauce. See, we didn't know. Well, I knew, but I knew some things, right? Some extras. But the average person didn't understand they had a gentleman's deal that, listen, let me break it down for you guys, because in the affidavit, they tell you that apparently Austin and maybe Hunt, we're just going to talk about Austin, okay? That they were writing some racist graffiti or something, right? Okay. Now, from what I could gather from that affidavit, they didn't tell you what Karmelo did. I think he just said there were some things in his phone, and that's the reason why they came up with this deal. Now, I knew what this stuff in the phone was, so I figured, well, his attorney is not kind of telling the public everything. That could be a problem too, because now you have people swearing that, oh, he didn't have anything in his phone. I'm like, man, you people, some of you are talking too boldly when you don't have all the facts. And see, that's why it gets a little bit sketchy. But I noticed in the affidavit, it didn't tell you, or at least I didn't pick up on what Karmelo had in his phone. Okay. All right. So evidently he had some things in his phone that were strong, and they revealed about the graffiti, and that these boys apparently allegedly had been locked up for it or arrested, detained, whatever it is, right? I was in Egypt. I didn't really care to get too deeply into it. I covered the case from the courtroom. Those facts I could just pull whenever I needed, right? So with the gentleman's deal, see, we didn't know that. So everybody's saying, why isn't the defense putting up a fight for this kid, right? Why are they just letting him fall by the wayside? Well, see, now we know that they were kind of handicapped because they certain things they had agreed. Listen, we can't bring this up, right? We can't talk about the dirt from the Metcalf boys, right? And they won't talk about the dirt for Karmelo. Now, here's where it was tricky, because I even came out and I told you guys, right, from my notes, that in the opening arguments, this is what they used against Karmelo so that he couldn't take the stand. Okay. Because everybody wanted to know. Remember, Calvin Johnson, our home criminal defense attorney, he kept saying the boy should have spoke up for himself. How can you say I was self defense, but you're not articulating to the jurors why you had to use this measure, right? Why? Right? Wouldn't it have made sense? Like, a lot of people, they want to push back. I deal with it every day, so it is what it is, right? But here are some situations where I was like, well, maybe he's going to say this, right? Now, here in New York, I don't know that much about McKinney, Texas, or where he lives. But in New York, sometimes when I'm traveling at night, and I travel a lot, sometimes I wish I have, I won't say what I have or don't have on me, but sometimes you cross some of these blocks, you might be going through the gangs, you might see a creepy guy trying to take your belongings, all sorts of stuff, right? So under those circumstances, you would be able to say, listen, I'm just trying to get home at night, so I carry this on me. Boom. Okay. Um, in the opening arguments, they said this is what they mentioned. They said Carmelo Anthony enjoyed camping. So I thought at some point the defense is going to say, oh, the other day he went fishing, he put it in his bag, he didn't realize he had it. Well, are these strong arguments? Well, I'll leave that to you. I'm just telling you what could have been said, something as to why. They never articulated why he had it on him. You follow what I'm saying? So, but all of this falls under the umbrella to a certain extent of this gentleman's deal where I can't talk about you, you can't talk about me. But what they tried to say that broke this deal, and it all fell on, see, right from the jump, this gentleman's deal, the only person really truly profiting from it was the prosecution. So, Carmelo, it's a lose lose for you anyway. And then on top of that, they handicapped you even more by not allowing you to express the deal. They pulled a deal from you, right? But this is what they said. They said, oh, you mentioned that he was good at chess. Good at chess? So that killed the deal. So now we're not going to play ball with you. In so many words, you follow? So yeah, so a lot of us didn't know that that was happening. And guess what? As I expressed today at lunch, you're not hearing about any of this from the mainstream media. Remember all of these big mainstream media that was telling you play by play all the things that Carmelo did. Now, after the tables are starting to turn a little bit, let's see. We have a new judge appointed in Carmelo's case. Are you going to hear some of these big wigs come out tomorrow and say, oh, Carmelo Anthony has a win? You probably won't hear that at all. You see what I'm saying? Right? Because you haven't heard about the affidavit or the motion, right? Are they talking about what the attorney said as to how Carmelo did not get a fair shake? The only person you have talking about is people like myself that, number one, it takes a lot of boldness and also a bit of I just don't care. You follow what I'm saying? Because people will always try to dictate what you should do and talk about. But that's a whole different story. So let's get back to the case. I'm just trying to walk you through it. In this case, let me tell you what really came across to me as a little shaky. The first witness that took the stand in this case was a video expert. That's where we saw the video. Now, I don't want to get into this whole. See, the big problem that happened in this case is that some people were allowed to go see the video at the Frisco ISD. And so they came out and they said that they saw certain things. Okay. So when we went to court, evidently what we saw did not fit um, the description at hand. In fact, it was just the opposite. So, just as an example, those individuals that you would see on TikTok and these places, they would say, Carmelo is already sitting under the tent. And then the twins came, four boys walked up to him, beat the brakes off of him, boom, 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 right? Then Carmelo runs, right? So then when we went to court, that's not what we saw. We saw what was released, right? We saw the same thing that was released by the ISD by means of the court, I would imagine, right? We saw the same blurred video, okay? But here's the key part to it. The reason why I took it very personal is because sometimes I would see people put out a 1 minute video and it would make sense if you didn't go to court, right? Under the tent, you'd see a black blob of a person. Keep in mind now, Carmelo had on a gray sweater, okay, gray sweater. But they would show when Hunter walks up into the tent. Then they cut the video off and they say, look, he's beating them. What? He's beating them? Okay, so anyway, that's that. But here's the deal. why this is so important that, number one, in court, and they're starting to release the transcripts little by little. So I think we're going to hit a home run. I can't wait to come and show you guys the court record that Karmelo walked into the tent 2 minutes after the twins. And again, I told you his mother explained that in her video that I put out before I went to Egypt. But this is why it's important, because I showed you guys a video that Hunter actually turns around on his knees. We assume that it's Hunter. Uh, Even in court, we learned that Hunter was sitting right in front of Karmelo. Okay? If someone wants to contest that, I'll leave that open. I'll say allegedly. But the individual that's sitting in front of Karmelo that I show you in the video, if you guys want to see it, put a one in the chat. If we get enough ones, I'll show the video again right now. But check this out. I show you that Hunter walks into the tent. He sits down. Karmelo comes in 2 minutes later. He sits behind Hunter, right? That's very important because when I show you that that individual that's sitting in front of Karmelo turns around on his knees and he's bearing down pretty much on Karmelo, you can see the angles in the movement as though when Austin comes over, there's already some action going on between the two, Karmelo and the individual sitting in front of him. So you see how that whole story about Karmelo was already in the tent. Some boys walk up and start beating on him. See, that distorts the real truth that Hunter sat down first. Karmelo sat behind him. According to what his family said, that Eddie had invited him under the tent, so he comes in after the boys. Okay, I showed that to you. So now it makes sense when you see that the person sitting in front of Karmelo, right, turns around and he swings. You see the swing. I show you that. And we have clearer video too, but that's a different purpose for that coming down the line. All right. Um, so that in court, right? So we have the video. I just wanted to put that out. The video expert, this is the big red flag. I want you guys to understand. He breaks down what's happening with Karmelo running. When you see Karmelo running, you see the white orb around him. Okay, that was done by the video expert so nicely. But guess what? He never put any light, any orb to show what was happening under the tent. Don't you think that would have been the best place to really highlight who's hitting who, right? That's what we're here for, right? The whole case is very much contingent and hinges on what happened under the tent. So when the defense asked the expert, the video expert, why didn't you show what's under the tent? He says, because the prosecution did not ask me to. Yeah, that's what he said. So right there, anybody with a thinking mind are going to say, wow, you mean to tell me you brought us all here today and you don't want to show the jurors what was happening under the tent? Now, you're the prosecution. If Karmelo was the one that was really out of pocket, you'd be showing him under that tent. There's something off here, right? So when I show you guys the video, now we see why, because you see now there's more than one person that's involved in swinging and all this job going on with Karmelo. And I get guys coming in and they say, oh no, oh God, that would never happen. Only one person lightly touched him on the shoulder, right? Oh, you were in court too, huh? No. Where do you get your information from? Oh, I was, don't even know, don't have a clue. But that's just the nature of life, and people want to know everything, right? But I've shown several times that there's more than one person, and I haven't had a lot of feedback from people that really follow the channel. So mostly everybody is saying, yeah, we see it we get the idea, right? But the question is, right, why wasn't that in court? What would be your answer for that? How do you let a jury? Now, I'm not taking away from what happened. There's a dead body. Yeah, dead body. So that has to be addressed, right? Okay. So nobody's talking about it. People come in, oh, he killed a guy. We're not talking about that part. Okay. You guys have to, some of the guys have to learn how to focus on certain things because this is a valid point. And the question is, how do you sentence a guy to 35 years or 10 years or whatever? And you don't even know that it was more than one person who was hiding that information. See, that's the troubling part. I struggle with that sometimes as I try to fall asleep at night. Who was it being hid? Like, how would the prosecution not know what I showed you guys? Right? Right? Well, the fact that they didn't highlight what's under the tent leads me to swing in that direction. Why didn't the defense do what I did? Why didn't they get a professional to say, listen, you see this here? There's two guys involved with him. How does that work for the proportionality? You see, anybody with a thinking cap on should be able to understand where I'm coming from because the big issue is proportionality, right? If a guy pushes you, right? See, I have no problem telling you guys, I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't talk to Carmelo's family. Everything I do is just from my own, investigative work, right? But at the end of the day, right, this is what you have to understand about this case. When I go back, because I'm listening to everybody, all of the witnesses as they came in, I'm checking them out, how they look, their facial expressions. Some of them, many of them changed their story from the first day that was heavily documented to when they came in court. Okay, that's a fact. But I get people on Facebook and other places, nobody ever changed their mind. Oh, who told you that? We get the most doofiest people in the world trying to tell me what I saw in court, right? Going to argue with a guy that sat there in court, going to tell me what witnesses said. I don't need you for that. I saw it for myself firsthand. Okay. All right. Now, check this out, though. You have these kids, and for the most part, they come into the courtroom and they're basically all saying a couple things that Carmelo came in, he really didn't know Eddie. He just they say he dapped Eddie up. You know how the guys do, boop. And he sat down. And that really, listen, I had it out with some of the girls that I still talk to from the court case. I made some good friends there that were from the local area. Amazing advocates and so, but we got into it. I'm like, listen, I don't mean no harm, but they're trying to paint a picture like Carmelo just came under this tent and he didn't know anybody. Now all of a sudden, somebody stabbed. It's like, wait a minute, this is what they were painting, right? This, if you listen to the kids, we had a whole day of them coming in saying, yeah, he didn't talk to Eddie at all. Then even Eddie tells us they were talking. Another kid said they were talking about the weather. So after time went on, and I'm only talking about prosecution witnesses. Don't think I'm talking about the defense. These are their own witnesses that are starting to say, "Oh yeah, they were talking. He knew Eddie." So when I heard the mainstream media running with this whole narrative, he was just there to take somebody out. That's the same thing the prosecution was basically saying. Another thing that the kids, right? You had 12 or 13, they all painted a picture, right? That Hunter basically sat there like the Lamb of the Christ, and he didn't even really do much of anything. This is what these kids, right? So how did this be? How could this be? Right? You saw the video I showed you, right? But some of the kids did say, one kid, I think it's Tion, he says, yeah, I think Hunter did stand up. He was behind him or something like that. Then if you remember Hunter in the video, he says his brother grabbed the backpack, right? So when I showed you guys the video, you started to see that Hunter was actually turned around on his knees confronting Karmelo. It's right there. And remember, this all happened in 5 seconds. So there's no 15 seconds for you to turn around or no. This is 5 seconds. This is the part a lot of people are not realizing. Um, and you have to ask yourself, why is this the case that all the kids came in and they tried to paint this narrative that when you actually follow the facts, we're starting to see that it doesn't jive, okay? So that's why this case is so important, because typically when people swear, especially in the court, they had them swear on the Bible and everything else, right? Right. And so imagine I would attend a trial and then I'd be on my way home or to the hotel and I listened to the mainstream media. All these kids said that Carmelo was the aggressor. Was the aggressor. Okay. But see, then I told you what happened with Eddie, right? Eddie is the key witness. The prosecution told him that when he arrived on the stand, said, hey, listen, you're the man of the hour. You're the nexus between Austin and Carmelo. Okay. You're the nexus between the two of them. Okay. But then Eddie, he tried to downplay Austin and tried to paint the narrative that Carmelo was the aggressor. So when you have that happen, and most of the people are not in the courtroom to hear Eddie say to everybody sitting there, Carmelo called Austin a bitch. Austin then calls Carmelo a bitch. See, Carmelo is the one, right? But see, under cross examination, then the attorney, Toby Shook, he takes Eddie back in time to the day that it happened. He says, hey, don't you realize that you know this was recorded, right? Oh, okay, yeah, it's recorded. Do you know on that day you said something totally different? Oh, what was that? You said Austin told Carmelo, I'm going to get your bitch ass up out of here. And Carmelo says, well, move my bitch ass. But that's different than what we've been hearing. So guess what happens, right? This is what happens. I'm just giving you the day in the life of where I sit. So I hear all this in court. I'm like, oh, okay. So there's some hanky panky with this case. People are lying. This is prosecution witnesses, right? Then I'm going to the hotel. I turn on the big stream media, and lo and behold, every kid came in and said Carmelo was the aggressor. Put him to death. You know, that's just the way they roll. And then when I try to say, well, no, these kids are distorting here because Eddie and this, and I start, oh, what do you know? You wasn't even in the courtroom. I have a list. I checked. Some guy on Facebook told me I checked the list. You wasn't even in court. Like, I don't want to say that word. I'm like, dude, you don't even know anything. But you see how this is? It's all programming. The mainstream media puts out their narrative. In this particular case, which I hadn't really seen, the judge chose a specific person to come in to be the star media guy. It doesn't get much better than that. So he's the go-to guy for your media. Okay. And you have 9 that they hand picked out. Boop, you can be there. And so this whole narrative is being pushed out about a case that I see big problems, but it's just a small voice, right? Yeah, a small voice. And then on top of that, you got the loonies over there just making other stuff up. So that makes the culture looks bad. We even see it now with Nolan, just making stuff up out of the blue. I'm like, man. So what happens when the facts come out and you have to, these people don't even go back and correct themselves. They just keep going. They show up the next day with the next story and nobody said, well, wait a minute, you said this about Nolan. No, you don't get that, right? Not at all. People just move on, and when the next lies come, they just eat it up and absorb it. There's something wrong. I think we're sick as a people, if you really want to know about it. So at any rate, I don't want to keep going. I saw some of my guests wanted to come up. I'm sorry. You guys can come back in now. and I'll open it up. But I was just babbling on. I'm sorry if I've been going on too long, but feel free to come in, guys. Um, but I just want to express to people that this case, don't be shocked if this case turns around. See, they set you up for failure because number one, you don't want to listen to me. I try to tell you what I know, what I experienced about the case. So what's going to happen more than likely is that the good attorneys are now going to do like some of the things that I did. And they're probably going to come out with this video and show you that more than one person, these kids came in and said that Austin was lightly pushing the boy on the shoulder. Come off it. You know, what are we doing here? Pushing him on the shoulder. Now, I show you guys the video. Now you got two guys on him. So you know what happens? Everybody's saying he got 35, he should have gotten life. Okay, I'll give you that. A good attorney already today, he had a win. And so imagine now he gets an appeal because people see what I saw, right? Just common sense. It's no magnificent thing. And then he gets a new trial, and maybe it doesn't even go to trial. Maybe he gets a reduced time. People are going to go nuts. And you know who you're going to have to blame for that? You're going to have to blame the mainstream media for not telling you the truth from the beginning. Don't come looking for me. I tried to tell you this case has problems. I do not care enough to spend this much time on any one case. The reason I do it because I look at it as being a problem. And it's not really about Carmelo Anthony. I'm thinking 10, 20 years down the road, maybe if we can get some justice now, maybe the next generation won't have it so hard. Okay? And I know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people unsubscribed, you know? I'm like my grandfather. I said, don't let the door hit you on your way out. That's just how I feel about it. I'm not here for followers and likes and all this business, you know? Okay? So I'm trying to tell you that a storm is coming for this case, and I can feel it. It's in the air. And don't blame anybody else but the mainstream media when you see this boy get less time. Because technically, at worst, it should have been manslaughter. It would have been for anybody else, right? That's just what it is, right? Um, when you have a defense that's not a, let me explain it to you because some people are just hard to grasp little points. Um, let me give it to you like this. Because of the gentleman's deal, they couldn't really draw out anything good about Carmelo, right? But check this out. He Now we know there's two guys involved, okay? So we're going to come off of this one light push. You can't sell that to me or anybody that follows this channel that saw the video, okay? So he had two guys on him. Um, he stabbed somebody, okay, or whatever. Some people are trying to say, oh, one of the brothers, you know, I'm not into all that. The boy told you what happened. Anyway, so check this out. He runs for it. People are saying, well, he run. That means he was guilty. Hello. You got now 4 or 5 guys on your heels. What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? So that's just common sense, right? But people try to draw things out and it's ridiculous, okay? Now, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. So anyway, he runs, and I showed you guys in the video, so you could always go back and check it out. But he runs the prosecution in the opening arguments, right? Because I listened intently. They said he ran and he threw the knife away, tried to almost like he tried to hide the knife. Then he ran to try to get out of an exit. So you know what it means when you hear that, and then all of a sudden you see the boy, he runs up, he drops the knife in the bleachers, 3 bleachers up. The boy runs out past the exits. You see him run past where the cars are parked. He could have ran out of the event. That's not what the prosecution said. That's a low down dirty shame. I'm just saying the least I expect the prosecution to be honest. He runs to Tiffany, who I showed you guys in the video. She's a coach. I saw her give her testimony. She says she stopped him with one hand, right? Little small lady. He yields to her. She hands him off to the big black coach. He's 6'2", 240 pounds. I remember these details from court, okay? He grabs Karmelo by the shoulder. He says, son, what did you do? He says, I told him not to hit me, okay? Whatever. Okay, I still argue that that could be Hunter because Hunter was the first one to argue with him. And from what I see in the video, potentially the first one to engage with him. Okay? But anyway, that's a different discussion. The guy says they're walking along. He walks away from Karmelo. Carmelo's standing by himself. He goes over to get a report on Austin. He comes back. Guess what he does? He grabs Karmelo by the shoulder again. Carmelo could have ran. You see how fast the boy run, right? If he's just trying to get away, hide his identity, that's not what we heard from the prosecution from the beginning. I'm just telling you, this is how it happens in court. You don't want to get in trouble because it's not going to go well for you. So the guy came back to Carmelo, put his arm around him, and he says, if this young man dies, I heard the coach, his name was, Hooper. His name is Vincent Hooper. I'm pretty good now. I talk about this case so much. Vincent Hooper, shout out to you. I felt like you gave a good testimony. But Vincent Hooper says that once he told Carmelo the boy could die, Carmelo says, no, he's not going to die. You know? So he didn't even, that gives you an idea of remorse, okay? Okay. Anybody with a thinking brain, if it was their son, they're gonna really focus and say, "Oh yeah, that's some kind of remorse." That's not a hardened type of situation, right? And that doesn't justify what happened to Austin. Emotional intelligence could have led this all to a better place, okay? But That's not always how life works, okay? It is what it is. So the coach really laid it out, and then you see Carmelo jumping up, he's crying and all of that or whatever. Then he gets to the police officer. He says, is he okay? So my point is the defense didn't draw any of that out because they're so concerned, potentially, allegedly, about a gentleman's deal. You follow what I'm saying? This gentleman's deal, this is what the new appeal team is using to show that this is why the boy did not get a fair trial. Okay? So I'm trying to help you guys to understand more about the case and hear about things that you probably didn't get a chance to hear about, but I actually saw for myself in the courtroom. It's a tough time because people, like, for instance, for the measure of people that are out here just pushing this race bait, it's out of control. And you have to wonder, what is the final objective that people want? And you have it on both sides. People that they're only good, they can't really accumulate money or resources in life. So they're just looking to stir up trouble. But it's quite concerning because now we're starting to see it on more cases, right? And so that's why I'm trying to convey to you guys today to help you to understand that that's why for a case like Carmelo Anthony, I had to stop and say, hey, wait a minute. Because the big thing, I'll be honest, it was the mainstream media pushing narratives that I saw for myself wasn't true. So you get to sit at the high seat, and everything that you're talking about is hearsay because somebody, one of your producers, went and sat in court, and now they're passing on information that has to go through a filter. You get to talk about it, and people take your words as gold. But in actuality, you push just as much misinformation and disinformation as the people you complain about. When I went out to Nancy Guthrie's home and I was out there, the mainstream media went after myself and JLR and all the other guys. Oh, you guys are here. Boom, boom, boom. Guess what? You know what these guys are saying now, mainstream media? Oh, this is the end of our show. Go like my YouTube. Oh, you got a YouTube? You were just talking bad about YouTubers. So you're a YouTuber too? We thought that YouTubers were from the devil, right? So you see the double standards, all this stuff you have to contend with. And then I had to deal with the people that went to see the video. They had a whole different, it's just chaos on top of chaos. It's just like going to the asylum, just dealing with all of this from every different angle, just trying to report on a court case. But now we're starting to see some of the transcripts come out. I can't wait to show you on paper. And also, I'm interested in knowing if uh, if the transcripts are going to be legit, right? I'm not going to impute bad motives, but I just can't wait to really break into it and compare it because I remember, and also I have my notes too. Other people were there as well. Let me bring on my first guest, Remedy. If you want to come up too, I'm waiting on you. All right, DJ Genesis, what's happening?
Hey there. So I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask. I wanted to play a little bit of this video. Have you heard of like the it's a channel called Legal Doc Talk your favorite paralegal. Have you heard of her?
Yeah, I have connection with her.
Yeah, so she was actually going through the release transcripts and she says that there's a lot of days missing out of the transcripts. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I listened to it. Yep.
So you've seen this video I was trying to show it to you because I was going to see what do you think about those particular days, and was there anything specific on those days that might be a thing where they might have to be maybe, I mean, will they like black things out, like if they don't want the media to like see that particular thing, or do they have to release
They
the
have
whole
not, based on what I understand, they have not provided the days that are in question from the appeal team. So, in other words, they remained in a handicapped space. So, that's something that they will have to push through and fight through. But the days that are missing are the days they need to substantiate the points within
so they
reason.
oh so they're not letting them be to the public because it's still under part of the actual case.
Right.
Okay, because okay. So I could take that down. Then I mean, I was gonna play it so to just to have it. We could hear what she said. Those days are missing, and this, that, the other. Another question I had is that it seems like the jury, in any other trial, you'll at least hear from one juror that'll get an interview. But in this case, the only person that got interviewed was the judge. Was there any particular directive that the judge made about the jury going to the media, or at all? Did he tell them, hey, don't go to the media? Or
He gave them, I heard the directive that the judge gave the jury, and he basically told them that they could not talk about it during the court. And he specifically said, once the case is over, you can talk about it or whatever. So he did not inhibit them from talking about it. Now, that could have changed, but I'm just saying what I heard in court.
because there were other times where like people weren't around allowed to be there, the media, to hear what was going on when he talked to like lawyers and jurors. I'm not sure if that might have been because I mean no jurors, only
Well,
judge.
that's normal. When they have a sidebar, you're not supposed to hear what the judge is saying with the lawyers. So that's not really something concerning.
No, I was saying is that wasn't there a whole time where like the media was out and then the judge and the jury was there talking to each other? I think toward that during the sentencing, that like around that time, I thought that there was like a whole time that they had. I get there's so many different stories about how that whole thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories floating, but I don't think that was. I don't think they were instructed not to talk about it. From what I heard, unless he changed his position, they could talk about it after the case was over.
Mm. Okay, because I was just wondering like if that was because I think it's interesting that zero jurors, like, I mean,
Well,
like,
listen. Just from the heat that I take alone, anybody most people probably don't want to have to deal with the public on a case like this one.
Right. Okay.
Because no matter what you say, somebody's not going to be happy with you. And depending on how low they vibrate, they may want to be physical or plumb stupid. So that's just how it goes.
Right. So they have to probably protect themselves in this case. Okay. I think is that the third question? It seemed like this that they went to quickly. They wanted to quickly put this case under the rug. Like they quickly did everything. I mean, it seemed to be the record time murder case I've ever seen moved so fast throughout. Um, do you think that what's going on with the suppression of things, is it more or less to try to quickly make things happen so that it doesn't stay in the media so long, so where it creates an upheaval and more drama where people could have flown in, it could have gotten more and more aggressive because more people are coming, things like that?
Well, listen, this is just my viewpoint. I think it would have been more advantageous if they didn't release the video and didn't release the transcripts, because I've already shown you by means of the video, you get a chance to see that more than one person, that was a mistake on their part releasing the video, because now they're gonna have to face the music. That's just the bottom line. And then so when it comes to the transcripts, now you're gonna see here's the issue. This is just my opinion. Most of the mainstream media ran with the narrative, oh, it was just a light push on the shoulder. You know, then Hudson comes in, he says it was a lineman's drill. That's not a light push on the shoulder. That's when you get up under a guy, you grab him, and you try to do a serious move on him, right? Another guy named Jay, he basically said he was trying to, grab him up. And then I think it was Toby Shook had him quantify it and explain, what does this mean? And he was explaining like you're trying to pick up a guy. So all of those things are going to come out in the transcript. That's a real big problem. And it doesn't stand with the narrative that the mainstream media has ran with. So imagine what this does to your audience, right? When your audience hears that Austin did a light push on the shoulder, and now they get the transcripts and they read it for themselves, and they see boys talking about he was doing a lineman's drill and he was trying to pick the boy up and this, and that. That's different than what you heard on your favorite network. You follow what I'm saying? So that's why the transcripts are being, I would imagine, I would seal them up too, right?
Sounds like it. And then another question is that if like when the jury was looking at the video, because you could
Yeah.
see the juror's face, right? What was the expression that you saw on the jury? Did they look more like they were trying to? Because I mean, from the video I see, it still is kind of blurry. Like unless they saw something way more enhanced than what they finally released, I don't see how they can get a murder conviction out of that. It still looks like fuzzy to see, unless they. I mean, was that
See,
final? Yeah. Go ahead.
see, here's the deal, right? You take the video out of the equation. They were going to get him on the testimony of the individuals. There's just enough there. So they don't really have to see the video and all of that. You had Worski, right? And I think Calvin and I talked about it. We call it the can, like a can statement. So imagine it this way. You have 13 people, and this is the problem on the appeal, okay? Because I could look at this in both ways. I could argue this case from both perspectives, okay? But let me give it to you like this. Every one of those pretty much students that came in, at the very end, Worski would say, was Carmelo Anthony the aggressor? The kids say yes. Was Austin Metcalf the aggressor? No. Was this self-defense for Carmelo Anthony? No. Did Carmelo Anthony murder Austin Metcalf? Yes. So all of them, imagine you get 12 or 13 people saying that, as their final words before they leave the stand. Don't you see how impressionable that could be?
Yes.
So forget about the video. They played a textbook, I shouldn't say played, but they had a textbook game, right? And I can't say game either because this is modern vernacular. People are going to take it wrong. They did a textbook case on Karmelo that, in my opinion, the appeal is going to have a tough time because based on that alone. Because when you listen to the judge when he gives his spiel and he's interviewed, he tells you he pretty much did a textbook job, perfect job, right? He was proud of himself, right?
Yeah.
So, and think about it. This was the last big case for that judge, and he's off the bench in December. What judge is going to turn around his record? I mean, you got to use a little. Listen, when I covered Diddy's appeal, you know what they told us? So there's 3 judges on Diddy's appeal. I went to Diddy's appeal about 7 months ago. We still don't have an answer. Diddy will be home in about 3 weeks. Okay. Now, Diddy will be home in probably 2 weeks, right? But check this out. This is what the judge said. He says, once a jury have rendered a verdict, this is in New York. Once the verdict comes in, he says it's very unlikely for us to turn it around. 3 judges. He said I wrote it down verbatim. It's very unlikely for us to turn it around. Okay? So that gives you an idea. It's not an easy task to be able to do something like this. I'm just being honest with you.
So, I was going to ask a question when it comes down to like, okay, the knife situation, right? You know how you said that he was out camping and this, that, the other, right? If he was unable to say that he played chess and that was against the agreement, don't you think that that could also be against the agreement that he was out camping and that he was a camper and he used knives for camping? Isn't that similar to saying that, like a character thing, like he was a camper and he used to go out hunting, and that's like kind of like a character type thing too that he could probably try to object or strike, right? So do you think that that's the reason why he never used that?
Well, knowing what I know now, I understand that the defense was trying to tell you. Sometimes I know you very well, DJ Genesis, so I could deal with you this way where I try to give you a hint during the show that nobody else is going to get, and you would probably get it because we know each other, right? So that's what the defense attorney was trying to do in the case. So he's saying, I'll give you a couple of examples. He's saying, because of the whole knife, he's saying he enjoys camping. You see that? At another time, they went through the components of the bag that Karmelo had, and there was like a ski mask, right? Some people call it the Pooh Shiesty mask, right? But the defense attorney says, but he also had a hand warmers. So see, now he's trying to tell you the mask, he's cold, so he has hand warmers and he has a mask. It's not like he's out robbing banks. You follow what I'm saying? So at the time we were saying, oh, these guys are garbage. No, these guys were inhibited by the gentleman's deal, and they were still trying to tell you things, but a lot of that is based on the information. See, obviously, in order for them to even take this gentleman's deal, there was something Karmelo had in his phone that was shattering, or else why would you take a gentleman's deal? You see what I'm saying? Just like it was very important for the masses to not know that these kids had racist graffiti and they had been locked up for it. Imagine what the jury probably would have thought. Like, wait a minute, wait, these kids did what? You know what I mean? So by that being off the table, it kind of kept this case in line for a 35-year or more. You follow?
Right, makes sense. Because I was just wondering, like, like that hands being tied. Do you think that also has something to do with the fact? Because I know that Charleston White mentioned that particular lawyer is not really have connections in Collin County. He's more of a Dallas County lawyer. Do you think that had something to do with also because like certain lawyers like probably have more precedent in certain areas?
Listen, let me give it to you straight. All right. You probably catch me on a bad day. I'm probably saying too much, but I'll tell you. All of these lawyers and judges, some of them play golf together. If it's a civil case, sometimes you might get more money because this lawyer know the judge. You know what I mean? Or you get a gentleman's deal. You got all sorts of deals happening because of based on relationships. Or one guy, maybe this particular judge used to be his mentor. You know, whatever that is, so he can go in and pull off a deal that the average Joe from another county could not receive. So that's why it's very important when you choose an attorney for a case, you want to get a local guy and you need to ask him, you know, do you have any pull in this community? How many cases have you see? That's very important because a lot of times it's the good old boy club. It's just what it is.
Well, I know he said that he was an agreeable attorney, and he felt like it's better to have an agreeable nature in a case like this.
Yeah,
And so I,
but see, here's another issue. I don't want to get into it too heavy, but think about it this way. Um, Carmelo family had an original black attorney for him. Okay. And I think that attorney had two other attorneys. Okay. I don't know how much they were charging, right? But I guarantee you, if you looked into it deeper and you saw how much the guy he ended up with was charging, there's probably a difference. Okay. So I'll leave it there. So sometimes you get what you pay for. And it's a hard lesson to learn. All right.
wow. Okay, well,
So,
those are my
so
questions. Thank you so much for having me.
all right. Thank you. All
Hey,
right. What's
Mel.
happening? What's happening? Oh, let me drop the link in case somebody else want to come up too.
If you can hear me, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? All right. Go out and come back in. Go out and come
Yeah,
back
I'll leave
in.
and come back in.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right.
Uh,
So while she
no,
does that, if anybody
let me
else wants to
go
come up,
from
oh
what
boy, let's
Mel sent
see.
me here.
Okay, let me take
Let's-
her around here. Okay, so there we go. So thank you to DJ Genesis for coming up. She's always amazing, you know, solid individual. So you guys start to get the picture here to a certain extent about how these cases work. I wouldn't want to go to cases like this where I get a little sidelined because all of this weirdness is happening. It just takes up too much time. Especially, we live in a world now where nobody's really happy with whatever you're going to say. So you just have to cover the case and stand on what you believe in. And that's what I do. All right. How are you? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right. So what's on your mind? Talk to me.
Um, so I ran across something very interesting, Mel, and I know you were in the courtroom when the guy that made the edits to the video. I don't know what you call him, but when he was on the stand and he was talking,
Enhance
um,
the video. He
yeah,
enhance. Hmm.
yeah, when that guy enhanced the video, he was speaking. Did the prosecution establish anything or any concern? Well, did the prosecution make a record of why the timestamps and dates or anything were different was different on the video, or did the defense question it at all?
All right. So basically, the can you mute up while I talk because I hear my backdrop.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So basically, the prosecution they said two things that stood out to me. Number one, they said that the timestamps were going to be off. You'd notice that, and so we started. They set the stage for that. The defense didn't really. That would have been another thing for the defense to really draw up, but they didn't. The other thing is the prosecution said you're going to notice that the witnesses, right? They're witnesses that their stories don't match. They said that. So to me, right off the bat, they knew that their witnesses were not jiving, and it made me wonder, why was that the case? But let me tell you this, though. I was probably the first person to come out of court and talk about this. And I was happy to get the video and actually show you guys that I know what I'm talking about. But I said, and I even got the date right. I said, when you get the body cam video from the Officer Cortez, I believe that's his name, you're going to notice that the timestamp on his body cam is February the 10th, 2016. But that's happened on April the 2nd, 2025. And so if you go and look at the body cam, you'll see that I was right on the money. Go ahead.
All right, so what is interesting to me about that is we all know this whole Charlie Kirk murder shebang. Well, I don't know if I can say that. This whole trial with Charlie Kirk is unraveling, and they were just in the phase of the preliminary hearing. One of the things I found interesting, Mel, was the prosecution. They were standing at the stand, and they had the gentleman on the they had the gentleman they had the gentleman on the stand, and he was testifying as to, if this is a real video or not. And so then um, the judge, no, that he was testifying as to whether this was the real video, if this was the video that he had seen before, some more things. But the defense came and they were like, Your Honor, we're gonna object to the authenticity of this video. They said, due to the what did they call it? I can't call
We're, we're having trouble hearing you now. We can't hear you.
What? Can you? You can't. You still can't hear me now?
You could try. It's
I
not
don't know
good
what's
though.
going on. You want me to leave and come back?
Yeah, you should try that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Very good. So, if anybody would like to come up, I saw a few people with some statements. Here is the link. You could come up and discuss whatever it is you want to talk about. Okay, let's see. Looks like we're still having trouble here. Let me give her a little bit more time. Yes, I think she is in a tough spot. We have Empress. Good to see you. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to. Okay, looks like she's here. Let's try it. Okay, try it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, so we heard the part all the way up until the video. And they were questioning, the defense was questioning whether it was authentic or not.
Yeah. So the prosecution, they were standing at the stand, and they had the video expert on the stand, advising that this is the video that I saw. Basically, they were trying to give credit to the video being used. Well, the defense stepped in and said, Your Honor, we're going to object to the authenticity of this video. They said it for a number of reasons, but it was so interesting because the judge, he said, wait a minute. He said, I hear him saying that this is the original video. He said, and I also heard someone testify before him that said this was the original video. But what we don't have is the person who made the alterations to the video, testifying saying, yes, I did this. And what was questionable, Mel, is the fact that there were red circles or something on the video and arrows pointing. I think yellow circles or arrows pointing. Things as small as that, raised the alarm. They wanted to know who can attest that they made these adjustments to this video. And so, because the guy that was on, well, the prosecution, they didn't have the person there that could say, "Hey, I did this. I'm responsible for this. This is the video. It was original, but I did this for this reason." They weren't there, and for that reason, in the preliminary hearing, that video was not admissible. And I found it very interesting because in Carmelo's case, I don't know if he could have or did have a preliminary hearing, but with the timestamps being off on the video, that alone, Mel, makes it very questionable. If this happened on this date, you need to show me that the date and time that this happened. And because that was off, that video shouldn't have even been allowed to be used. I don't care that you give me an excuse and say, "Hey, you're gonna notice that the witnesses their testimony is off," or you're gonna notice that what did you say he said, Mel?
What's that? I'm sorry.
You said that the prosecutor laid out two things. He said two things that were interesting to you. He said that the witnesses'
The
statements were
witnesses don't match, and also the timelines are off.
right. I don't care that you give me that excuse. You need to have somebody on the stand that can, testify as to why it's different. And I didn't see that with this case. So I wanted to know if you saw it. When that person was on the stand, that person that edited that video, you need to give an account. And the prosecution still didn't give an account as to why this is different. And I think that would help to calm, some of the noise, because you do have people out here saying that's a different video, but it's questionable. That timestamp, the dates and things being incorrect, that makes it questionable, because why is this off? If this is an authentic video, if it's real, and if it's not altered, if it's not put together in any way, why is it different? And
Yeah.
I don't think that
In
was.
this particular case, the video. Can you mute up for a second?
Yep.
I'm sorry. In this particular case, the video expert, for the most part, he did all the work on the video, so therefore he would serve as a expert as to why the video, had any changes. Like, for instance, the orb that they put around Carmelo, all of that, he was there to say he did it. So it wasn't a case where some other guy did it. He stood on it that he made the alterations. That makes the difference.
Okay, got it. But did they establish? Did they ask those questions? Did they give account on record as to why this is different?
No, and typically they'll bring in an expert that will explain that. Typically, when you have these videos, sometimes they're recorded over each other, and they give you the reasons why the timestamps don't jive. In this case, they didn't really focus on that.
But in my opinion, man, I think that was poor. I think that was poor of the defense, because they could have used that to their advantage, just seeing how things are unfolding for this other trial. You have so many people saying, "Hey, the evidence is overwhelming. This kid did it," and then you have other people saying, "No, this doesn't match, or this is different." It, I mean, all the way down to the DNA is interesting in that case. I don't want to, cross your show up with that white standpoint from a
We're, we can't hear
different,
you.
I don't know what's wrong with this. Can you hear me now?
Because you're driving, because you're riding, we can't. It affects your service, so we'll have to continue.
Okay, Mel.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Come back up when you get
Yeah,
to a
bye, bro.
stable
Get back on
place.
freeze.
Okay. Thank you.
It's all my boys.
All right. Okay. Very good. Those were some great questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have another person coming up. Dennis Byron. How are you?
Mel, how are you?
All right. Not bad. How are you?
Yeah, I want to make sure you have anything open, but how you doing, Mel?
All is well. Not bad.
Do you hear feedback, Mel?
A little bit, but it's okay. It's bearable.
Let me make sure there's nothing playing in the background. Okay, with that said, I haven't seen you since the Diddy trial.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. How are you?
Good, good. So I had a few questions. I wanted to get back because I talked about the case early on, but I've been traveling from a few places covering some entertainment stuff. When you were in the courtroom, did you hear the defense attorneys make a lot of objections during the direct examination of the witnesses?
I only counted two.
And two throughout the whole.
In totality, yeah, two.
Are you saying in days and hours and
Yeah.
Okay,
One of Go
so
ahead.
that when I heard that there was going to be an appeal, I was wondering what type of objections were made throughout the trial that would end up in the appeal because you have to preserve the record. Uh,
Right.
and I was a little concerned that I didn't hear many people reporting that there were a lot of objections made or any objections made by the defense attorney. Uh, were you concerned about that as you watched the trial, and did you hear anything that you would have thought? And I don't know how many trials you actually have covered, but did any of that lack of objections raise an eyebrow or concern for you?
Yeah, big time. Because think about it, when we cover like Diddy case, some of these other cases, in 1 hour you have so many objections. Like with Luigi Mangione, they objecting all day long, right? Because they're thinking about an appeal already. But in this particular case, I believe that they did. So basically, I think you probably heard me when I said Worski was asking each of these kids four basic questions, give or take the style. Was Karmelo the aggressor? So when it came around to one time, I believe they said um, Worski asked, "Did was it self defense?" And that's when we got an objection. So at least one of those
What was that
was
objection? What was that objection?
the objection was Carmelo Anthony um, self defense? Was it self defense? And the person said no, and then there was one objection. The judge says, "I think it's just their opinion," something like that.
Okay, so what was the objection by the attorney that these are not expert witnesses and they can't testify to the legality of whether or not that was self-defense?
Right. The defense objected because they're like, you need an expert to answer that question.
Okay, you talked about the video. The initial video was played to the jurors. Um, were you concerned that the video in its entirety wasn't played for and I think in evidence, rules of completion played for the jury? Did you think that the lack of the complete video being played from, for example, when the Metcalfs entered into the field as well as Carmelo, did you think that was significant, or did you think that was uh,
I
immaterial?
didn't I didn't think it was too out of pocket because I was in court. I was able to follow along. The thing that troubled me is that we all saw the video because they gave us five different angles and it was chopped up, right? But it's blurred, and they actually explained because I'm pretty sure. Have you seen the 15-minute video?
Uh, I didn't see the 15 minute.
Okay, so there's a 15-minute video. When you first look at it, it shows you in 4K. You see the entire field. That's what 4K means. That's the natural setting of those cameras.
Right.
But the tent is all the way across. So they explain in order for them to zoom in to what's happening way over here, it becomes pixelated, right? You're an expert with
Yes, of
all
course,
that.
of course.
That's what you do. Um, so basically, they establish pretty much all of that about the particular video. The thing that was concerning to me is that they called for a break. They brought in a special television. They put it in front of the jurors. It was a 4K television, and they were the only ones allowed to see it. So we didn't get it. We had a chance to see everything else, but we didn't get a chance to see the 4K video. But when they started to explain it, then I was able to say, yeah, they're pretty much seeing what we saw, but they're seeing it in 4K.
Initially, there was an issue with the monitor that they were using in front of the jurors, that wasn't a compatible 4K monitor to show the 4K video. Did they change that throughout, like during the trial, and corrected that, or did they come in with that 4K monitor that they had in front of the jurors?
Yeah, they came in with that 4K because they just showed it in its natural setting on all. I think it's like five monitors in that courtroom. Similar to like Diddy's trial that we covered together.
You talked a little briefly about the judge and his post interview he did after the trial, which is, and I spoke about this, is rarely ever happened that a judge presiding over such a high profile case that would be likely up for appeal that would give any type of post-trial commentary. Were you a little concerned about that when you learned the judge was doing this interview 48 hours after the sentencing?
Yeah, I knew it would be trouble because, we know that this case was going to go to appeal, and I wouldn't expect like when we covered Sean Diddy Combs' case. Can you imagine Judge Submarinian doing an interview afterward? That would be weird, right?
Or any case, I don't recall ever,
No.
except one case in South Carolina, judges would get off the bench and sit down with the one media outlet. And the media outlet, I don't know if you're aware of this, but that particular media outlet that he did his interview with was the media outlet that was designated to share sketches for sketches that the sketch artist was doing, and we didn't have a direct access to the sketch artist. I don't know if you were aware of that, but that was the media outlet that I was told that I had to get my sketches from. And he also alluded to me creating AI renditions of the sketches, because I didn't have access to the sketches. So I would see a sketch and I would create a rendition of that sketch. So when he was talking about that, he was talking about me.
Oh, wow.
But you weren't aware.
No, I didn't know that.
The other thing, I was contacted by a certain content creator before the trial started that they was having issues getting access into the court media side of the courtroom. For whatever reason, that person was denied. Then I was told that the judge was not allowing any note taking. That raised another flag for me. So what I in turn did is reached out to Steve Stoller, who was the point of contact for the media, and essentially said that this appeared to be a constitutional issue. If the general public is not allowed to take notes, that may pose a problem. It's clearly a First Amendment issue if it's a public courtroom, and because it's a public courtroom, as long as you're not bringing electronic devices in, then you should have the ability to take notes. So around 8:30 p.m. that evening, he said that he would reach out to the judge. So this is after hours. Within 30 minutes, he got a response from the judge. The judge reversed his decision on note taking.
Man, thank you.
They prepared an order for the media for the general public to now take notes. So I saw the motion for recusal, and I saw the reference in the motion for a new trial. And I don't know if they try to reach out to me, but clearly the judge knew that this was he overstepped his boundaries as far as trying to limit access to even the general public. So when he did this interview, it was clear to me that this judge was doing damage control, because you don't need to do damage control and doing a press a interview post trial if the court was open and transparent for the public. So you don't need to do that, because what standard would that set for other judges who decide that, hey, we just did a high profile case, and for the defendant or the person who the accused, that the judge is making these opinions or statements that could likely twist the way this case was handled. And I don't think this judge was doing everything above board. And I was very clear on that. And the judge didn't say my name, but he knew what I was talking about.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts as far as the appeal goes? You think this case has a strong chance of appeal?
See, the problem again is the objections. This is what any good defense attorney is going to make the right legal objections to preserve the record. I don't see this happening, and that's a concern. That's a concern for me, because you're going through a trial. You challenge everything. And the other part is we never had access to the pre-trial filing, so we don't know what was asked to come in, what was not allowed to come in. The judge seals all the records. Why are you sealing the records? There's no need to seal the records. You can redact names, but you don't have to seal the records. And we don't know what, again, I asked about that too. Most journalists like to prepare for a trial if they're going to cover it. So it was a lot this judge did, and he said something in his interview where he was trying to protect the kids. Well, no, most of the kids were either 11th or 12th graders, 11th or 12th graders, and they witnessed a crime. So you could have shot, like you could have let a camera and you could have shot from shoulder down, but their testimony is their testimony. It's a murder trial, and it's not something that the judge could control from the public, and that's what it seemed like he tried to do. Even though there was an overflow room established the first day, and I think that was for voir dire, and then it disappeared. You could have kept the overflow room open. You know how we were in the Diddy trial, even in federal court, we had monitors.
Right. But I think at some point I heard him say that this case because of the minors, you know. So I think that's his argument.
Yeah, I think that was his that's his argument, but I don't support that. I really don't support that because there are many cases I've covered where kids testified. If it wasn't a family court case, the judge still allowed cameras in the courtroom. So we'll see how this plays out. And I think that him wanting to have these records sealed is only to protect himself.
Right. I agree.
To a certain degree. I think, I've covered enough trials to see why. The YSL trial, one of the most high profile trials, you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, definitely.
So what was your experience dealing with coming down there as a member of the press, seeing the noise outside? What was your experience with that?
I was expecting it wasn't even bad as Maduro. A lot of people don't realize I covered Maduro's case. Outside, you have Antifa fighting with the Venezuelans and everybody's using the N-word. That was a whole, this was like a cakewalk in comparison to Maduro's trial. Even Diddy, that's the toughest case outside that I've ever seen is Nicolas Maduro and his wife.
Okay.
In New York, you can't even turn around.
I'm in New York right now, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But in this case, we saw that Jake, I think his name's Jake Lang, was out there protesting, and then we saw some weird stuff. You were on the ground there. Was it as racially charged outside as other people reported?
No. That's for sure. A lot of times until I would say probably that last moment when people were actually covering it was more, but during the trial, it wasn't a whole lot of activity outside where it was crazy. I mean, you know how it is. You go to court, you listen, you come out during the breaks,
right.
But it wasn't packed. People come in for that last verdict or whatever, but throughout the trial, it was you'd have clusters of people, the Black Panthers and some other people. Then you had the guy, Dominique. He would come up with his crew, just things like that, but nothing like what you would imagine, It wasn't.
It was a lot happening on social media.
Yeah, but see, that's some of that can be characterized and drummed up a little bit, but it wasn't a lot of tough guys, white supremacists that you would imagine. All that I didn't see any of that.
What about the reporting of people of color being ejected from the courtroom or ejected from the courthouse? Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that, and I started off this show explaining how there was a black guy, one black officer that I noted out of maybe 30, just one, maybe two, but I didn't see the second one. He was really stern, and he's like, he was the enforcer. Get back in line. Da, 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 da. So one of the guys called him like not an Uncle Tom, but a house Negro, something like that. And they ejected the guy.
Did you hear that? Did you hear him say that?
I didn't hear the exact. I saw him being ejected. I didn't hear exactly what he said, but people. I was in line. I was like maybe that day I was number like 3, And the guy, when he was ejected, he was probably like number 14. So
Okay, so he was in the back of the line.
yeah. It's
Okay.
27 in all. He was probably midway through.
But what were there only people of color ejected, or were there a mixture of?
No, there's you never see other people ejected. that,
Oh,
that would be a monumental moment. It's always the people of color getting the boot.
okay. And did you know why the other people got ejected?
No, he was the only one that I really saw getting ejected. I didn't see a whole lot of people getting ejected. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
What made you decide to cover this particular trial? Did you follow the pre-trial?
Yeah, because my showmate Calvin Johnson is from the area, so when this happened, it's like in his backyard. I said a year prior, "Oh, let me go down and cover this case." So I knew I was going to cover it. I didn't know it was going to be like this. To me, it's like one of the biggest cases of the century. I had no clue.
This case?
Yeah, believe it or not, because of the racial tension.
Well, I covered OJ, so that was a pretty big case.
Yeah, that's back in the day though, but for this time frame.
I'm not that old.
No. You covered OJ. I'll have to interview you about OJ. That would be amazing.
I think I talked about him a few times.
Mhm.
Johnny Cochran and Bob Shapiro and Bob Kardashian and a bunch of the other, Carl, what's it called, Douglas,
Mhm.
Marsha Clark. Uh, who else was it? F. Lee Bailey. A bunch of attorneys.
Wow.
Yeah, there was some very interesting attorneys on that case.
Man.
But I appreciate you being out there, being in the courtroom. I sat next to you, so I know you're taking the good notes.
Yeah.
So that is good. What's your next case you plan on covering?
Chris Brown in London. I'm going to London. Yeah.
Chris
That's
Brown.
yeah. In September. Yeah.
Okay. Is that civil case?
Actually, you know what? I think Luigi Mangione is around the same time, so I'll be covering both of those in September.
Okay. Well, I'll be here for Luigi.
Okay. Good deal.
I didn't see you at the concert on Sunday.
Jay-Z?
Yeah.
No, I just came back from Egypt.
Oh, okay.
I had jet lag, so I said, man, I can't go out there for that, man. I'm a big Jay-Z fan though, but I couldn't catch it.
It was incredible.
I know, man. I know.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Nets hat right now, but I got my Yankees hat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've been to so many Jay-Z concerts, but I knew this was going to be like incredible.
It was just that.
Yeah.
If you got anything popping, let me know, and then maybe I can pull up on you, and maybe week in the city because I'm in the city now.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Let's link up. I'll reach out to you. Thanks for coming on. Can you tell everybody how they can reach you and support you?
Absolutely. You can follow me on all platforms at Mr. Dennis Byron or Hip Hop Inquirer on YouTube. I haven't did any live videos in a while, so I was scrolling and I saw you were live. So I said, let me listen to see what you were talking about.
Oh, okay. All right. Good deal.
And our guy's coming. Well, Diddy's coming home.
Yeah, he's coming home. But I look forward to covering Luigi Mangione with you, though.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting case.
Yeah.
If you get in the courtroom, there's a lot of fans out there.
Yeah, it's tough. They come in as a block, so it's about 20 of them, and they hold lines. It's tough. It's going to be tough. Well, you have to come in with your media. That's the only way, where they're going to box you out every time.
The same line sitters, the same guys doing the line sitting?
No. Luigi's fans are a little bit different, man. They have that whole thing sold up, and they have money, so you won't have any luck if you come through the public side.
What about the press credentials? If you have your press credentials, we have our credentials.
Yeah, that's the only way. That's what I'm saying. That's the only way to get in for Luigi, because what they'll do, well, that was the winter time, so what they would do, some of them would be sitting in cars. So by the time I walk up, they say, "Oh no, there's 20 of us in line, but we're in cars and tents." And then all of a sudden they start walking.
Where they parking at in Manhattan?
Man, they had a whole scheme, but
I was at an FBI building, and they told me I was going to get told.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, it's going to be tough for Luigi, though.
Well, I'll get in. I figure a way to get in.
Yeah, you have the press credentials, so you should be fine.
I'll be good. But
Yeah,
thank you for bringing me on. Make sure you guys follow me on all my platforms, and I'll be watching. I'll be in the bushes. I decided to pop out the bushes on you.
Yeah, I want to have the moderators state your channel so they can put it in the chat for you.
At Mr. Dennis Byron.
All right, guys, if you could put that in thank you very much. All right, man. Thank you very much. It was nice catching up with you. We got to link up. I'll reach out to you.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. Thanks. My man, thank you. Okay, very good. So I think that's it for today, folks. If we don't have any other questions in regards to these matters, I think we're going to call it a day. Shout out to you, Gun B. Oh, we were supposed to cover Nolan. So what I'll do in regards to Nolan Wells, how many people feel like, put a 1 in the chat if you think that something nefarious happened with Nolan Wells. Put a 2 if you think that it was just maybe an accident or nothing nefarious at all. So let's see. Put a 3 if you're not even familiar with the case. All right. So we have Matt says nefarious. Okay. Gun B thinks it's something nefarious. Thank you, Stella, for putting up Dennis Byron's channel. Let me make sure okay. It's awesome seeing Dennis. Okay, here we go. So there we go, guys. Go follow Mr. Dennis Byron. Go support him. Definitely a good, awesome brother. Eliza says it was nefarious. Okay, so we have quite a few people thinking that Nolan Wells' case is nefarious. Mustang says not aware about that case. Commander is on the fence. You're waiting for the autopsy. Okay. Fantanisha thinks it was something nefarious. Okay. Can somebody articulate in the comment section, or if you want to come up and talk about it, tell us what about this case makes you think it's nefarious? Let's see. Can we get somebody to actually articulate it? Let's see. We'll wait for those comments. But for the most part, I just want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in today, especially for the guests that we had. It was good to see that so many people are concerned when it comes to Karmelo Anthony's case. There's a good reason why people are still talking about the case, especially if you are familiar and actually went to the courthouse. You would see exactly what I mean by the discrepancies. And also, it just seemed like we stepped into the time zone where, remember the old show Twilight Zone? That's what it seems like to me in regards to this case. Fanta says definitely they did kill him. Okay. Stella says like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. Thank you very much. Comic says Drew Anthony lost his appeal. Can you expound on that? Are you talking about his own personal case? Or are you talking about the case involving his son, Karmelo Anthony? I'm not sure what you're referring to. All right. So thank you guys for tuning in today. We had some amazing people on. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for news at noon Eastern Standard Time. Stanley says justice should be equal for all, no matter what race or color. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that, Stanley. Good to see you. Remedy thinks that the case is nefarious. Okay. Comic says he lost his appeal. The one with Tiffany Billions. Okay. Yeah, that's right. All right. I saw that online. I didn't really cover that too sturdy. Ground and Sky says, thank you for all taking the time to be here. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate you, Ground and Sky. All right. Stella says, yes, his own personal case. Thank you, Stella. Tara Scott says, thanks so much for covering it. I think you're such a very smart man. I love it. Okay, thank you for the support. Commander says, does hiring Ben Crump and Sharpton automatically make it a race case? Oh, that's a very good question. I don't think so. New Jersey says, good night. Okay, Jazzy's in the building. Jazzy says, what was the case about with Tiffany? I'm not too versed on that. If you had asked me about 2 weeks ago, I briefly read about it. Was it defamation? I don't know. I don't want to tell you something wrong. Comic says, sorry, I'm just joining. Okay, come back and check tomorrow. Okay, Cowboy Baby says, blessing to everyone tonight. All right, so it looks like we've covered pretty much most of the. Okay, Comic says that Sarah Fields sued him. Okay. So, can you tell us, Comic, was it defamation or what was the basis for it? Let's see. I'm going to wait for your comment really quickly. If you could just tell us what was the case based on, Comic Poet. Thank you. Okay, so defamation. All right. Thank you very much. I thought I read a little bit about it, but I wasn't too intrigued by it, so I'm not versed on that. All right. So in conclusion, all right, we still have comments coming in. Jazzy says, what is Sarah Stewart? Okay, we covered that. And D Cran, thank you so much. I was just about to talk about you, and thank you for your super chat. Thank you for always showing up, D Cran. Don't think I don't notice it. There's a few names that always turn up for me, and I'm so grateful to have you in the company. It's so amazing. If you're interested in becoming a moderator, D Cran, I would love to have you on. You just have to let me know, and I would definitely add you to the fold. Thank you very much. So in conclusion, all right, so D-Cran, I'll add you, but I can't add you on here. I'll have to go back. All right, thank you very much. So in conclusion, I just want to say we're living in a time where a lot of people are just seeking to create all sorts of adversities for other people. I think it's wise for any of us to try to get along as much as possible, despite the color, religion, creed, whatever it is, because the more we can mend this gap, I think we could get further as a people. But again, we have to be able to address the issues at hand. A lot of people come into the chat in the comment section, and before they even take the time to hear the details as to the position on Carmelo Anthony, they just run with a narrative that they receive from mainstream media. And as you just seen from the brother that came on, Dennis Byron, his channel is Mr. Dennis Byron. We cover these cases. He's been covering cases all the way back to O.J. Simpson. Go check him out. He's very good at what he does. But these cases are never so simple. There's so many different moving parts. You see, the prosecution said that the witnesses' testimonies would not match. If the mainstream media doesn't say it, people won't believe it. Or what about the fact that the timestamps were off? Do you hear the mainstream media talking about that, right? There's just so many moving parts. What about the fact that most of the kids said that Carmelo basically just received a nudge from Austin, just a little push on the shoulder. And now we've shown you by way of video that basically there's two people engaging with Carmelo. There's no doubt about it, right? But that's not what many people understand about this case. So when you say it, they won't believe it. Even now, if you try to show it to them, oh, no, that's wrong. That's a real big problem because a lot of people get sentenced and they go and they get these long prison stints. And you have to wonder how many individuals did not get a fair trial, right? And as I told you with Sean Diddy Combs, when I went to his appeal about 6-7 months ago, the first thing the judge says is it's very hard for us to ever turn around a case on appeal. That's what the judge said. That was the first thing out of the judge's mouth in the case of Sean Diddy Combs. Now, based on what we understand, he's going to be coming home based on other reasons, credits that he got for good behavior and also the drug program and so forth. But we have to be able to understand these cases at a high level. But one of the key ingredients is for the truth to be able to come out and be absorbed about a case. But already we see with this new case, today we covered, what is his name? David Irving. That's going to be hitting the court soon. I'll definitely go down to cover that case. The young man drowned and they arrested the young fella in regards to a white guy. If you are not familiar with that case, go back to my live today at News at Noon. I covered that case too. That's another drowning. And in that case, they arrested the guy. So we don't know the true story yet of what's happening with Nolan, but already people are jumping the gun. People are making up. In the case of Karmelo Anthony, when it came to Austin Metcalf, somebody made up the medical examiner's report, and they said the boy was on drugs. People make up so much stuff, right? This is going to be a real big problem for us when it comes to these cases. And we have to use knowledge and intelligence in covering cases and knowing that you can't get bent out of shape because people can't even follow the true facts of a case. I want to thank you guys. Thank you to the moderators for keeping us solid tonight. I see Stella in the mix doing her thing. I really do appreciate it. I just want to make sure I say it. Also, New Jersey, and thank you very much for all you do. You guys are the reason why we can get through a show and not have a lot of people in the midst just creating a lot of fuss, right? A lot of, I call them, well, I won't call them anything. We're going to just end on a pleasant note. I want to thank you guys. I see Grumpy's in the building. Shout out to you, Grumpy. Thank you again, D. Cran, for all you do. Thank you for all the guests that came on. DJ Genesis of Detroit, you can go follow her channel. She has a great channel as well. Thank you to Remedy for coming up and for all you do. Remedy has a situation going on with her son. We're going to have her come up and talk about it. We spoke about it before. She's going to be giving us an update. It's quite the story, but it's nice that we can give some support to people who are going through challenges, especially when it comes to their kids. We also had Mr. Dennis Byron. He covers these cases all the way back to O.J. Simpson. I'll have him on to tell us more about the O.J. Simpson case. That would have been the case of a lifetime indeed. Thank you so much. Peace out to everybody. Much love back to you guys. Thank you so much for all you do. We'll see you tomorrow for News at Noon Eastern Standard Time. Until then, have a great night. Be well and continue to let your light shine. Have a good night.
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the flame remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.